3.
Oh my God. That was a moment.
Are we official?
Oh my goodness. How exciting. This is the start of something really special, I feel.
I know.
It really is.
The bold angels.
The boldies.
The boldy angels.
Yes.
Guys, the boldies.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, I'm Sydney Robertson,
And I'm Amy Kiernan.
and Reinventing the Algorithm is our invitation to you to reimagine work and life with intention, purpose, and a sense of freedom.
Together, we're going to explore what it means to show up as our true selves. And so this is for anyone that's ready to create a more meaningful, fulfilling journey on your own terms. Welcome, Amy. Amy Dubs, Amy Weidner from The Bold Agency. We're so excited that you're here
The
too.
queen of the boldies.
The queen of the
boldies.
We are so excited that you're here with Sydney and I on Reinventing the Algorithm. And actually, just for everyone listening, Amy is our first ever guest. And this is the most special moment. I mean, I've done a couple of podcasts as guests, but I've never been a host. And to sit here with you and to sit here with you, Sid, I mean, can we just take a moment? Yeah. Would you like to maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your agency and the work that you do?
Yes. Thank you. That was such a lovely intro.
Oh.
So I'm Amy. I am originally from Ireland, from Cork, girl, which makes me so happy to be here with you today. So I have been doing multiple things in my life. My career mainly was centered around being a recruiter in tech, and did a little bit of work within the diversity space, inclusion, was always very passionate about that. And essentially, I am someone who slipped through the cracks in school, didn't go to university, didn't know I had undiagnosed ADHD. And then in the last few years, I've been on a journey of kind of self-discovery. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My last job was at Twitter, which is how I know you, amazing people. And I got laid off.
OG.
Yeah, the OG, power to the tweeps.
Love where you work.
Love where you, hashtag love where you work.
Yes. Which I changed today. I actually put a story up on Instagram with some old tweeps that we met last night at your event. And I said, goodbye, love where you work. And hello, love who you are.
Oh my God.
Right? Because we're not about what, I mean, I know what we do is so important, of course, because it's a way that we express ourselves in the world, which is why it's so wonderful to talk to you about the Bold Agency. But ultimately, your value is way beyond the Bold Agency. Your value is intrinsic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to create a movement, basically. So
You are.
Bold right now is my thank you. Bold is my company that helps people be seen on LinkedIn, helps people be bold on LinkedIn, helps people tell their stories on LinkedIn. So I work with a lot of different clients who are actually mainly entrepreneurs and a lot of women who are terrified of putting themselves out there on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn changed my life as a platform. Essentially, it means to, of course, feel the fear, because if you're doing anything high risk, it's terrifying. And it's more terrifying for some than others. But it's about being okay that it's terrifying and knowing that it's terrifying, but also knowing that it can be that thing, but you can also take action and you can also move through that fear and do the thing you really want to do. And the two things can basically exist side by side.
Yeah. So fear doesn't have to be, we don't have to assume that because we feel fear, that automatically means that we should not take action.
Exactly.
Those things can exist together. You can be afraid. You can be fucking terrified, which we have all felt at some point or another.
Every day.
All
every
point or another.
day.
But it doesn't.
Right?
But it doesn't mean that you have to stop chasing what sets your heart on fire.
Yeah.
Which is what you help people do.
Yeah, set your heart on fire. And you know what else? And I really am annoyed I didn't say this last night at the event. Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with her.
Girl, the
Obsessed
thing
with
that
her.
she says about that the fear creeps in.
Yeah.
So the fear is coming in, and it's kind of like I read in a book that you should call it like your roommate, basically, in your brain. You have this like roommate that sometimes knocks on your door, and they're like, "I'm terrified. Don't do that.
Careful
And it's
now."
like, yeah, careful now. Don't you do that. Oh my God, we're going to be homeless in a minute.
Yeah.
So
They're your protector.
they're your protector. And
Yeah.
that's coming from a place internally and unconsciously from self-protection and love. And it's your nervous system and it's your unconscious firing up because it's like, oh my God, like, you know, fear, money, security, because we all need a roof over our head, and we all need food and money and you know, financial success equals that, and security and the salary every month. But the way Elizabeth Gilbert describes it is like, you know, just say, thank you for showing up. I see you. I appreciate you, but I've got this.
And you're not the decision maker.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that part.
Yes.
You got me onto that book. Big
It's
Magic.
amazing.
It is.
I listened to it on audio. I feel like
I did the audio version as well,
Yeah.
and then I bought the actual Kindle one because I needed to be able to like remember
That's
it.
the thing. I was driving
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, there's so many good
There
parts
needs
in
to be
this.
an app for when you're listening to audiobooks that
Yeah.
somehow
Highlight this
you can
part.
highlight a part.
I've started taking screen recordings of like amazing parts
How does that work?
on your phone.
Screen recordings.
Yeah, of the like 30 seconds
Yeah.
of the
audio
bit that I want to save.
Do you do like, hey Siri, record this like whatever?
I just flip down the thing. Oh, 3, 2,
I feel like I would crash my car.
Oh, not in the car. Don't do that when you're driving. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Do not take our advice.
Oh, Siri! Siri's joining us. She's our 4th guest. Okay, let me turn this off. Just even sitting in this room with you, can we just start with just like,
Let's.
I'm just going to be bossy now.
I love it.
Unbelievable gratitude though for being in this room with like a newer friend in you, Amy, and a very old friend in you, Sid. Like, just honestly.
I had a moment last night. I was
special.
telling Amy, Amy K, not Amy Dubs, because I was sitting beside both of you on stage, obviously, and we were having our lovely chat, and Amy was we're talking about identity, and I told Amy, I'm like, I literally started to inside cry. Like it was my eyes. I'm like, inside cry. Cause I was I knew I was going to be asked next. Are you queuing me up? And she was telling the story. And I'm so proud of Amy and just like what she, you know, like so vulnerable as a mom. And like, I think she's such a great spokesperson for so many like female founders that are, you know, taking this journey as moms. And like, I just love how you chose you and your family and like just made it all work. And I just was like remembering that day in the airport on the way to Houston. And you were just like having a really raw moment. And I just remembered that and like just how much it shifted things for you. And like, you're like, I need to go back home. I need to be with my family, you know, and like, look how things have just evolved.
It was amazing.
It was.
Would you maybe tell that story again? Because I feel like it
Houston
needs to
story?
be on the podcast.
The Houston. Okay, so thank you, Sid.
No, I'm just.
It was
like,
so moving.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So the Houston story. So my son was born in November 2018. And I was living in Canada at the time. So myself and Sydney were working at Twitter. And I was very privileged. We were very privileged to work at a company at that time that had very generous maternity. And Canada is also very generous with maternity leave. So you get between 12 and 18 months. So I had 14 months altogether with my son. And, you know, over that time, obviously your identity shifts and you start to expand as a person and as a mother. But when I was returning to work, I was moving into this new role, this bigger role that I had never done before. We should shout out Paul Burns.
I know.
Because he's our old boss.
Paul.
And I don't think I gave him enough credit for how much he lifted the female people in our
really
like
did.
He really did. And
That's
he
amazing.
surrounded himself with, you know, strong women, and he was, you know, open to lifting us up. And he really, you know, he did. He called me 2 weeks after I had Oisín and said, I want to give you this job. I want to, you know, elevate you into this new
That's
role.
amazing.
And
Yeah,
I was
there.
I was deep in postpartum stitches, agony, and then Paul calls me to tell me that I get this role. So anyway, fast forward to 14 months later. We'll send him this podcast as well. He's delighted for us. He'll be very happy for us.
You will.
He will. Yeah, shout out
bless
Paul.
Paul.
So I'm returning to work, and it's the new year, so it's 2020. So it's 8 weeks before we all closed down for COVID, but we didn't know that at the time. And I was very nervous, you know, going back into this big role that I didn't, you know, really, I'd never experienced. And we were going on a sales conference, or maybe it was all Twitter conference.
It was the
everyone.
one. It was the.
There was like 5,000 of us.
Twitter one team.
One team. So all of us
The
were there.
entire
Were
6,000
you there?
employees.
You would've- no, you wouldn't have been there. Okay.
Right before
Right before
shutdown.
you. Yeah. So we
called it one flu actually afterwards because
Yeah.
a lot of people from there got COVID. And
Yeah.
it was
Oh my
like,
God.
started
in
we were a
Houston?
super spreader event. It was like our one team event. They called it one flu.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there
Everyone's
was a
like,
lot of people.
Guys, like, are you sick? Like it was January.
And
It
a
was
lot
like,
of people were sick that week, I recall. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I had this, you know, this opportunity to go to Houston for this conference, and I was like, what a fantastic way to re-immerse myself into the world of work again after being out for 14 months. And I said, this will be great. I'll be with all the gang. I'll be able to, just get back into the swing of things, right? Like I really was looking forward to it. And I didn't realize, of course, at the time that, it was probably, was it the best decision to make, going back to work, having that be my first re-entry back into the working world as a new mom? Probably not. But I didn't know that at the time. So I committed to it. It was my return to work. I went to Houston and I literally cried every single night. And it was so incredibly difficult. I can remember the feelings of just this split, I think, between this ambitious, driven professional who I had been for years and I was really proud of being, and I loved work and I loved the team and I wanted to get back to that and to feel valuable in a certain way and, be able to embrace this new opportunity. And then my heart was just broken,
Yeah.
I mean, a moment even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thinking back. And I think now on reflection, what had happened for me was I had made that decision to go back to Houston, or to go to Houston for that conference, in an old identity, right? In an identity that was still very much me, ambitious, like I said, very, very driven. Those of you who know me will know that that was always a huge part of my identity. High achiever, all about the work, the, hustle and that. And that was still me, but there was a very big new part of me that I hadn't realized had taken shape with the birth of my son. And I had not really considered her and how awful and difficult it would have been to
how would you
go
have
back.
known? Like, to give yourself some grace. Like, how would you have known, right?
And I didn't. I didn't.
It's like every journey like that, right?
Yeah.
You have to embrace it as they come. But I mean,
absolutely,
and just acknowledge this new Amy, right?
Yeah, the new Amy and shedding the skin. Like, I feel when you go through a big life change, and we spoke about this recently, but you have to kind of almost grieve the old version of you.
And you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
I think it's surprising sometimes. The grief that can take you by surprise and sweep you away almost.
Oh, agreed. I mean, just recently I moved, I had this condo for 9 years. I bought it by myself. It was my first, on my own, big accomplishment. I got it in my early Twitter years. And it was chaos. I moved in with my partner, which I'm thrilled about. But it was hustle bustle because it sold within a week and I had to move out very quickly because I was coming here. The close date got moved up by a week. It was absolute chaos. So we hauled everything out, got it done. And then I had to go back for last minute things like dropping off keys, all that stuff. And I remember coming back to Joe's place, which is now my place as well. And I just started crying and he's like, "Oh no, you're regretting your choices." I'm like, "No, babe, no." I'm like, "It's just for me." Same thing. That was my identity. It was single, successful career gal, right? And now
independent,
now I'm moving in with my partner and we have our 2 dogs and he has 2 wonderful teenage boys, which I'm so excited to, move in with as well. But it was just a moment I needed because I'm that identity. And I didn't, same thing. I was so rejoicing this whole experience and it selling so fast and it all coming together. But I was like, why am I crying? I'm like, well, that was a huge chapter for me,
Yeah.
So it's, like you said, sometimes it catches you off guard. It can be a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
But it's still, you have to take the time and the space to grieve those, that shift, know?
Yeah, and you have to, and I think you maybe said this, but you kind of have to honor that old version of you.
Yes.
And just be kind of okay, your job is done for now. That sounds a little bit woo woo, but
we love woo woo.
We love woo woo.
To different directions. And I really went through a lot of identity shifts in the last few years, especially moving into my entrepreneurial journey, getting laid off from Twitter, moving from being a recruiter into a DE&I role within Twitter, then getting laid off because of he who must not be named ever and given any more publicity than he already gets. I nearly got knocked down yesterday by a Tesla.
Oh my
God.
No.
You're not today, Satan.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. You're not having me.
Yeah.
Back on track. Okay, so basically, the shift in my own identity, and it's interesting because I work with a lot of people and you on their personal brands, and I noticed that people think that they have to be really married to something, especially in the way that they present themselves publicly. So I do a lot of work with people on LinkedIn, And they're building their personal brand and they're telling their stories. And one of the biggest blockers is that they don't know how to talk about themselves in a way that's because they feel like, oh, I have to really be. And it's just like that. It's like, no, your identity moves and shifts. And like we just kind of flow through different parts of the river. And throughout that flow, different things come into your life and different things come into your world. And you spoke about let's talk about that in a minute, the story world, the world story,
the world building.
The world building. It's amazing.
We'll get into that.
And that's so good because it's kind of like, you can, as soon as you lean into your identity and your authentic self, and as soon as you have to work maybe with a coach, I would suggest maybe like Amy.
Yes.
And take that time to figure out who am I truly, not around my career, not around who I am to other people, like who am I to me and what do I care about and what are the things that set my heart on fire. And we can then build our story world, and I'm going to make you explain that in a second. And then we can just bring all of these parts of our identity into it and just kind of relish in the flow and move through the flow and be like, oh, this is a new part of me. And when I was younger, because, I speak very openly about having ADHD, I didn't know that until about a year and a half ago. But a big part of my life was that I was always interested in a lot of different things, but that was always perceived as a bad thing. And I was very musical, but I also was very into my career. I liked writing. There was lots of different things. I love cooking. I then became a spinning teacher. And now that I am where I am now, it's like all of my identities are coming together and creating this like very powerful thing,
it's
which
a
you're
gift.
all,
I mean, both my partner and my brother are ADHD. My brother's like a rock star, literal rock star, and Joe is like a genius. And I'm like, if you can harness that, like that's a gift in itself, right?
Yeah.
It really is.
It really is. And
the way that your brain can work in all these multifaceted ways.
Yes.
Right?
It really is. And it's kind of like if you can, it's difficult because I'm also like in a very privileged position in many ways, but it's kind of like if you can understand the way your brain is or the way you are and the way you work and the way you process information, I think is a big thing.
Yes.
Because even the event last night that we were all speaking at together and we ran together, there was just something about it, about me feeling like, and I never felt so happy and comfortable on stage. And it was because
you could
I
sense
felt,
it. It was the energy was very, like I said, I felt like I was in a big, it was like a nightclub / living room because I just felt like it was
very safe,
a welcoming environment. You made it so welcoming.
Yeah, thank you. And I felt so happy, and it was because I was basically totally kind of unmasked. And because I had been very open about my ADHD, I was able to very openly then be like, okay, I need to say that at the beginning because I'm going to forget it otherwise. And I was just able to kind of embrace my flaws and embrace my, the stuff that happens in my brain that is just before, if I was doing something more corporate, I would have been sat there trying to remember all my lines and everything. And I'm like,
that's what we connect with. We connect with authenticity. We connect with realness. We don't connect with perfection. And that took me a long time to figure out.
Yeah.
It's not perfection that people want. We want the realness. We want to know.
Connect.
Absolutely. We see ourselves in you then.
Yeah.
And we're able to connect with you on something much deeper. Like, I think we all know what that feels like to maybe be a bit of a perfectionist or perform for what we think other people want.
Right.
Particularly when we talk about our self-concept and like who we are.
Right.
For the longest time, I measured myself based on what other people thought of me. And other like accomplishments and external things.
External outcomes,
the
right?
best job, the promotion, is that person happy with me? Did they choose me? Am I special? All of these things. And it's so easy, and it's also conditioned and given to us by society to fall into the trap of building your self-concept based on what other people want or need or expect from you.
Yes.
And once you get to a point where I think you got, where you're like, for whatever reason, I think people can get to this point in a variety of different ways. For me, it was a combination of motherhood and work and things that changed there. We start to realize that, constantly chasing a source of worth externally is too costly. It costs too much. And it's also kind of inefficient because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so I think when you get to the point where you're like, okay, when everything else is gone and when I have nothing else, when I have no achievements, when I have no money, when I have no anything else propping me up, who am I? What do I care about? And who do I want to be in the world?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you did. And, you know, you really tapped into that authenticity and who you are. And I know that's a hugely strong value of yours. Like you know, want to be somebody that stands up and is authentic and real because you care so deeply about that. And you connect to people like that too. And so I think that's what it was.
Also when you remove the fear, like Alex was talking about last night.
Yes.
When we were on stage, right? Like so much is rooted in fear, right?
Absolutely. I loved that point.
And, you know, it's crazy. And this is a bit of a shift, but I lost both my parents, and like growing up years ago now, but growing up, my biggest fear was losing my parents. You know, like I'd always dream about them being in this like car accident, and it was like that was like I'd put myself to sleep crying every night as a child, right? And then my mom went first. My dad passed away a few years back. And it's funny, I mean, obviously very connected to spirituality. We've talked a bit about that and the woo-woo around it. I feel very connected to them. But it's interesting when you take away those fears, and like I work with my coaches and talk a lot about like just the importance to like live life to the fullest. So instead of like wallowing in it, it's like you can make those shifts, and if you can face your fears and realize the learnings from that, we get this like one chance on earth, right? It's like I like when I made my shift and, you know, obviously resigned from X last year, it was I just didn't feel like it was aligning to me anymore. I just couldn't see it wasn't aligning to any core values I had anymore, right? And if you only have one life, you have to live it to the fullest, whatever it is. And you are enough, right? Like everyone in their true essence is enough. Whether you win or lose all your money, like that wonderful story that Alex said last night about this woman who was like a princess queen and like living out of her car. It's like all a matter of how you like feel about yourself, right?
How you feel, self-belief.
Your self-belief
is so huge. And the story when I met Zoe at the end, Zoe who told me about how she felt about coming to the event by herself. And then
what a beautiful story. You should tell that story just so people who are listening because I know it meant so much to you.
It meant so much to me because let me give a little bit of background. Thank you for sharing about your parents. I'm so sorry that you lost both of your parents.
Appreciate that.
Like it is
everyone's fears and different breakthroughs are different, you know. But
and also just grief is so hard and heavy, and it can actually destroy us for a period of time. I lost one of my best friends, Eunice. I probably told you about her already, maybe.
Last night you mentioned.
I mentioned her,
The 11, right?
Yeah, 11.
Yeah.
Eunice was, we were definitely connected at the soul. She was one of my best friends. She was my first friend in London. She was my biggest ally. She saved me from getting fired from my first job. Me and Amy had a walk yesterday morning in Hyde Park, and I had a little cry thinking about Eunice. And I just, it just, you know, it's just a feeling, and you're like, she's definitely around me because this is a big day for me. And this is also everything I dreamed of, is bringing amazing women together and people together, allies together, and creating positive change, and also helping people see themselves as valuable and as powerful, and like realizing their potential. So, and like Eunice always was my biggest fan and my biggest advocate and encouraging me. And she is very much the driving force behind everything I do. Some really crazy shit happened yesterday. Like her favorite song is Maserati. And it came on when I was doing my makeup before I came to meet you. The TV randomly switched on. I don't even use the TV in the hotel, but it switched on, and the remote wasn't anywhere near me. And I was like, you know what? She is around me.
Like, hello.
I can feel it. She's here. She's everything. And then it was just so strange because I was like really feeling her energy throughout the day, and I was like feeling like she's guiding me. And you know, there was like the venue we decided super last minute, and there was all these little tiny things that I was like, oh my God, so many things could go wrong right now. And when I host an event, I always send out an email to people if they just basically, it's like an inclusion type of a thing for me. And it's for people who are neurodivergent usually. And I just say, for any neurodivergent peeps out there who are coming to the event, I send them a visual of how to get there. I tell them the closest tube station, because that's how a lot of us kind of receive information, and it makes us, you know, way less anxious about going to events.
Right.
Where is it? And also managing expectations. Am I going to get a drink? Am I going to get fed? Just so that we all know expectation management is very important. And in the email, I had a short paragraph, and it was like, if you are coming alone, the heading, it was like, you know, please know that if you're coming alone, you are so welcome. You will be, you know, welcomed with open arms, and it is the place for you. In fact, it's probably better if you come alone because you're going to meet amazing people. And I said the vibe check was very strong on entry. So yeah. And anyway, so I nearly forgot to send the email, but even at 5 o'clock, I was like, whatever, I'll just send it. It's fine. Someone might read it.
I read it.
Yeah. Oh, great.
I read it too. I remember reading the line saying that's so amazing that you
thought it was
called
the
that
cutest
out.
thing.
I loved it.
Oh, it really
because
spoke
it
to
is
people.
everyone's biggest fear, like coming to an event
Absolutely.
alone. Like, what if no one's going to talk to me? What if I get
Yeah.
rejected? If they think I'm crazy?
Yeah.
Going to talk,
I know.
going up to speak to them, right?
Yeah.
I know.
So
and
the
that,
fact
like,
you called
breaks
that
my
out,
heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Like
so
I
thoughtful.
could literally, if I see someone sitting on their own and like, oh, like I could just like, I walked past a restaurant recently and there was a little old man having dinner by himself. And I just had to have a cry. I was like, I can't handle it. It just does something to me.
Oh my God.
So I was
You're
just
so
like,
sweet.
You're so sweet.
I just wanted people anyway to be feeling their feels about coming, like feeling strong, feeling confident, especially anyone who's like autistic, you know, that level of neurodivergence can be, you know, very, very overwhelming for people to come to an event. And so it's important. And anyway, so at the end of the talk, when I'm asking people, you know, does anyone want to share their bold self and whatnot? And then Zoe piped up and was like, listen, I'm a single mom of 3. I'm running my own business. I'm absolutely exhausted. I absolutely was not going to come. I was, you know, just going to put on my pajamas. And when I saw that email, it made me want to come. Yeah. And she's like, we had an amazing heart to heart at the end. And we were just like hugging and holding each other. Aww. And she just was like, you know, I just really find things really challenging. I won't go into all the things that she said, but it just, she said, you have left footprints on my heart from this event. And she was like, you'll never know, like, oh my God. She was like, you'll never know what. I actually had a cry about it this morning. She said, you'll never know what it meant.
You know, it's just amazing. Like, you've impacted someone's life in such a significant way without even, well, now you know it, but I mean, like, just by sending that email, making that. And funnily enough,
being so
Zoe
thoughtful,
was
I
the
think.
person I went after during the Bold activity.
Oh
So that was who I was talking with, because you were talking, Ames, you were talking with someone
Meg.
else, Meg,
Yeah,
thank you.
from Riley.
So I'm
an
like,
amazing company.
Oh, we need to talk about Riley.
oh
now.
my God, yes.
Yeah.
So I was marching around, and because everyone's been matched up, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go talk to her. And I think it was Nadia, her other,
Oh, yeah.
also
They were
amazing.
lovely. Yeah.
And so
They
I
were
was-
so nice.
so I was actually had a little moment of feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't know them. I'm gonna go. And then I went and sat and talked to them. And then Zoe like reached out to me after on LinkedIn. We're buds on LinkedIn now. She sort of like all my posts. I was like, she was like, I want to connect more, and I can help.
Because we all just want to connect, right? We all just want to belong to something bigger than ourselves, and we want to feel
Absolutely.
welcomed and feel wanted and feel special, and that's what you did with that email, and that's what you do with your events.
Yeah, well, it's just such a, that's the thing. And I always, whenever I do talks on like, you know, inclusion or any of that stuff, it's like at the end of the day, exactly what you just said, we all just want to feel included.
That's it.
No matter what you look like or who you are, how much money you have.
Yeah.
Like we are primal beings.
Yeah.
If we're kicked out of the pack, we're eaten by a lion.
Social
What was that
exclusion.
stat you were saying?
The 14 cigarettes a day.
Yes.
Oh yeah, about
loneliness.
Yeah.
the equivalent to smoking 14 cigarettes a day. It's wild. It's like
the
so
same
bad
thing in your
for
brain. I remember doing this in the imposter syndrome talk we did in Toronto last year. When I was doing research for this talk, you've just reminded me of it. Social exclusion brings up the same part of your brain that physical pain activates.
Yeah.
So it's a physical pain to be excluded. And it's why it drives so much of our behavior. And so, for it
The
may
fear of not fitting in.
That's it.
You should be excluded.
Yeah. And it can cause actual, like the same sensation of physical pain. So you removed that for people by being so thoughtful, by being so intentional with the space that you were creating, because community is so important to you.
Yeah.
And you naturally attract people that have the same value system as you, which is why I think that event was so magical last night.
Thank you so much for saying that. And the thing is, it doesn't take that much. That's kind of the point I'm
For
trying to
you,
make. Is like,
but yes.
Yeah.
yeah, but even just, I suppose it's just having that extra thought. Like, is there anything extra? There's one little thing that I could do that would just shift someone's thinking, and that just would make someone feel like, you know what? I'm calm. And again, it's like expectation management, or just letting them know like what to expect. And a big thing for me about these events is the feeling. You know, I have a vision of a feeling that I'm trying to create within people. And it's not about getting and, you know, sitting down and listening to just, I'm doing great and I'm an entrepreneur, blah, 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 blah. No, I want to hear about the shit show.
Yeah.
I want to hear about,
talk.
like Anya, when she's talking about, I got my period and I couldn't find a tampon. And I was like, and then what did you do? Then
I
she
then
ordered
launched
all
a
the things.
multi-million-dollar
I
or
still have
multi-million
the
euro
picture of
company.
The massive truck that's like right backing up to her garage with
yes.
like hundreds of thousands of
For
tampons.
those of you who do not know what Riley is, it's a period products company.
Yes.
And it's organic and it
Eco-friendly
is
and toxin-free.
eco-friendly.
Yes.
And Anya has no idea we're talking about this actually.
Well,
So
we
we'll
just
send her
pretend
this.
that they're sponsoring the podcast.
There you go. Brought to you by Riley.
We'll send this to her after. But like, what an amazing way to start the event as well. And her talking about that. And that moment was hilarious. Like the truck showing up outside her garage and they were like, do you have a forklift? And she's like, are you joking? This is my house.
She like loved
This
her.
is a Wendy's, sir.
Yes, I know, right? Oh my God. The whole figure it out thing though, right? And I think like, and also that was kind of the vibe of, you were saying last night, like a lot of last night was unscripted. Like,
Yes.
I normally do more corporate events in Toronto with Empower Her, which we can talk about another time, but they are pretty structured because of the corporate environments we're actually housed in as well, right? So we're actually at a big holding co or one of our partners like Snap or have you. So we have to have a certain element of structure, but I normally have like a full script, like I'm like down to like slides and everything. And so it's funny, but like Ames and I were going in to speak on your panel and we're like, we're not even sure what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But we know it's going to be amazing. But we know it's going to be amazing.
We did know it was going to be amazing.
And that just again just shows just how what you bring to the table, like the figure it out kind of mindset.
And the trust,
right?
I think, as well, that we also have
trust.
built together. I mean, even the fact that we're sitting here together and we're sharing and we're being vulnerable and we're talking about like really deep, like we got right into it there.
The whole unscripted thing, I was going over and over in my head. I was like, oh, and then I was like, all I need to do is remember who to thank.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because everything else, and I said this to Joss because we had been talking about it, and like, I think a lot of women and people in my network want to become public speakers. They want to get paid for it. They want to be doing it. And I'm like, because I know I had this mindset about it, like you have to be, doing loads of practice and you have to get a public speaking. No. You just have to, yes, you have to practice. You have to understand some fundamentals. But as soon as you understand that it's basically a performance, and I said to Joss, because she's obviously a Peloton coach, and I used to be a spin coach in Berlin, only for like a year.
Were?
Yeah.
Get out.
But just
That's
as a little,
awesome.
like, I was like, I love spinning.
Of course, because you love hobbies. Like
I just
you
love
said,
my
you love a
hobbies.
good
That
hobby.
was one of my hobbies. All I wanted. It was also, I wanted to challenge myself. I was like, I could do that, no problem. And I love music. I was like, it's kind of like being a check. I always wanted to be a DJ, check. And a spinning coach. And I combined the two. And then it taught me the biggest lesson I learned from that is like, no matter how I feel, because I would go in some days, I used to teach at 7, 8 a.m. I think on a Sunday morning.
Sunday.
God bless you. Okay.
It was like,
That's me.
and then I was like, making comparisons like, oh, you guys are coming to my service on a Sunday morning. Like, here we are,
I love it. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and for joining us and for bringing your curiosity and sense of possibility to this space. If you would like to continue hearing from us and keep listening to this podcast, please subscribe. And we would also really appreciate a rating. And we will put all the details in the show notes. You can find out where to follow us, where to connect with us, and where to learn more. Thank you so much.